Alright, in this video I'm going to do problem number 5 in the 8.2 homework. So it says here, exit polling is a popular technique used to determine the outcome of an election prior to results being tallied. Suppose a referendum to increase funding for education is on the ballot in a large town. So the population's over 100,000. An exit poll of 200 voters finds that 94 voted for the referendum. How likely are the results of your sample if the population proportion of voters in the town in favor of the referendum is 52 hundredths? Based on your result, comment on the dangers of using exit polling to call elections. So how likely are the results of your sample if the population proportion of voters in the town in favor of the referendum is 0.52? Let's see, so the probability that fewer than 94 people voted for the referendum is, well, first of all, what do we know? We know we're going to use 100,000, but it's over 100,000, so we can use 100,000 and be safe for n. I mean, it's bigger than that. And the sample size is 200. We know the proportion of the population that favors increased funding for education is 0.52. We were given that here. And so we need to find the proportion of the sample that is favoring this proposition. So p hat is equal to x over n, where x is the number that favor the proposition in the sample, which was 94 here, out of a total of 200. And that is equal to 0.47. And so what we're really looking for here is the probability that p hat is less than or equal to 0.47. So this is basically the probability that 94 people voted, or that fewer than 94 voted for the referendum. And basically that gives us the proportion 0.47, which is what we need. We could state this basically as we want to know the proportion of the sample that favored the referendum. And we want to know when the proportion is less than or equal to 0.47. All right, so a couple of things. We need to make sure that our assumptions are met before we can assume that we have a normal distribution. So the first assumption is that the sample is less than or equal to 5% of the actual population. That would be large N. And so in this case, if you divide 200 by 100,000, 200 divide 100,000, and it's actually a bigger number than that, we get 0.002, which is certainly less than 5%. So that one is met. Again, I got 0.002, and so that is definitely less than 5%, which would be 0.05. And then if we plug in here, which is 200, times p, which is 0.52, times 1 minus 0.52, which would be 0.48, and we want that to be greater or equal to 10. Let's see, if you multiply that out, let's see, 200 times 0.52 times 0.48, you get 49.92. So we're definitely bigger than 10. And so our assumptions have been met. We do have a normal distribution, and so now we can go to the normal calculator. Actually, before we do that, we first need these two things, the mean of the sample of p hat, which will be the same as the mean, I'm sorry, that's equal to p, which is 0.52. Let's see, hold on just a second. And we've got the standard deviation of p hat, and we've got this formula. It's p times 1 minus p over n. And so we're going to get the square root of 0.52 times 0.48 over 200. And, excuse me, I'm running out of room here. I got 0.035327. And so those are the numbers that we're going to need to put into our normal calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's see. I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but I'm going to go ahead and, so basically our mean is 0.52, and the standard deviation, we got 0.035327, so 0.035327, and we want to know when p is less than or equal to 0.47. So go ahead and hit compute, and we get 0.07848, and we only need 4 decimal places, so it'll be 0.0785. All right, let me go back. So this is 0.0785. So comment on the dangers of using exit polling to call elections. Choose the correct answer. So notice that this probability is not less than 5%, so it's not considered unusual. So the result is not unusual because the probability that p hat is equal to or more extreme than the sample proportion is greater than 5%. Thus, it is not unusual for a wrong call to be made in an election. So I think that's the one here. Let's see. So it's not unusual. P hat is equal to or more extreme than the sample proportion. In this case, that would be less than the sample proportion. They've kind of set it up so that it could be greater or less. And so this is going to be our answer here. And so that's it for this problem.